Welcome back to my channel. April here. Today I have for you my library haul. So I absolutely love the library. Just a quick story on my library background. I grew up in a very small rural school. I think we had, I had a total of, I made 6 girls in my class and the rest were boys. We probably had maybe 13 or 14 students consistently through my elementary years. So it was a very small rural school, and we did have a library, but of course it was the library of a small rural school, so it was somewhat limited. I did not live near a bigger city to have access to a larger library. I read pretty much all of the books that interested me. When I was in, I believe, 4th or 5th grade, I actually was tested and I read at a college level, and that, as well as my maturity, the librarian and the school actually gave me full access to the library. So I was able to go ahead and start reading the books that they restricted for the teen readers. I wasn't only able to read from the elementary portion of the library, which it didn't open up a huge amount, but it was a small spot. So the first time that I was able to go and check out books from a larger library, I was thrilled. And now I live in a city where we have not 1 but 2 libraries. That's really exciting because I really went through a huge reading slump in my old town because we just didn't get newer books as often. You know, I would kind of read through different genres and be done with them. You know, I'd read like everything by that author, everything on that specific topic, would have to move on to something else. So that's why I have like a history of reading a lot of different genres of writing, because living in smaller towns with smaller libraries and no bookstore, or bookstores that were primarily used bookstores, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think the only bookstore that I remember as a child was like, they just had tons of romance paperback novels that were old then, and you could go in and it was an exchange library. So that was pretty cool, and I did read a lot of romance because of that. I really have a love for the libraries, and especially since I do live in an apartment, and as you can see, you know, I can't really buy a lot of books. We don't have a lot of storage space. We have one built-in bookshelf in the hallway, and the other reason, of course, is because we're building a house, and I really, you know, books are heavy and I love them, but and it's a lot to pack books, unpack books, so I'm really limiting myself on the books that I purchase. So I read a lot of ebooks and I read a lot of library books. Today I'm going to share with you my physical library haul. I was going to share with you my ebook library haul because I do that as well. I check out, you know, most libraries will have an electronic lending library, and so that's actually one of the ways that I read a lot of the newer books that they get, because a lot of times the physical form will be checked out, but the ebook form, I don't know if more people don't use it or they have more copies because it's less expensive, but I can read a lot of the newer books when they come out quicker than I can in paperback. And I was going to share with you those today, but my Kindle Paperwhite went insane, won't connect to Wi-Fi, and I tried to restart it, and so now I have nothing. I have nothing, and I was in the middle of reading 3 books and I have nothing. When I get my new Kindle, I know that I will be able to restore those and pick it up, but for now, we're just going to stick to the physical library haul. So one of these books was one that I did have to recheck out because I'm in the process of reading it, and I'll start with that one. Pitching Snow. I posted this on my Instagram because I really thought, and the main reason that I picked it, well, 2 reasons that I picked it up, is it has a really interesting cover. You know, it's an apple, and it is a fairy tale Snow White retelling, so thus the apple. But as you can see, it is kind of like electrical type computer circuitry, and because our Snow White, and again, I'm not finished with this, but I'll just give you a little brief of where I'm at. Okay, so our princess doesn't know she's a princess. Well, okay, I think she does know. She's in this mining community, and she is a mechanic. She is the only woman, so she participates in these cage fights because they're, you know, men want the entertainment, and she's not going to go the other route. So she participates in these cage fights, and that is what helps fund her other love, which is her mechanic life. And she has built all of these droids, which, if I'm not mistaken, are serving as the 7 dwarfs. She has a particularly interesting one called Dimwit that doesn't quite behave the way that he should. Short story, someone crashes. She decides to help him repair his plane. They're off to a great start. She's helping him out, getting him out of the community, challenging herself to use her mechanic skills. But bang, he's not what he expects, and he has kidnapped her. And that is where I am at right now in this book. So I definitely had to recheck it out. Sometimes if a book is not interesting and I haven't read it before I need to return it, I will just DNF it and return it, but this one was definitely one that I wanted to keep reading and rechecked it because I want to see where this story is going. So the next book from my library haul is called All the Feels. This is a book obviously about fandom. Well, maybe not so obviously. If you read the back, it's obviously about fandom. It's about fandom and friendship with a side of romance thrown in. I thought this had an intriguing cover. It looks like it's going to be kind of a fun, quick read with some emotional content to it. That is why I picked that out. Also, because as you can see, my book haul is very dark. There's lots of dark covers and I believe going to be some dark content and some gritty worlds, so I wanted to throw something in there to balance this out. So I picked up All the Feels, and this is by Danica Stone. Says all is fair in love and fandom. And I'm not familiar with this writer. I'm not familiar with this book. And sometimes that's how I like it. I like to go into a book. Sometimes I don't even read the cover, the blurbs at all. I will scan them. I really love going into a story without expectations because then I experience the book for myself. I'm not skewed by anyone else's take on it, anyone's ideas on it, or my preconceived notion of that. So that will bring me to my next, which is the trilogy that is I have heard a lot about. Trilogy, Shadow and Bone. These are pretty hyped books. I read The Six of Crows by this author and I did enjoy it. I kind of feel like maybe I should have started with a different series, even though that's a standalone series. From what I understand, if I'm correct, it's kind of the same aspect of Grisha trilogy. If I had read these first, I may have enjoyed The Six of Crows even more than I already, because they are kind of hyped and I already kind of have an expectation how the writer's work is from reading The Six of Crows, but at the same time, I really, really don't want to know too much about these. So that's all I'm going to talk about them for now.